All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today. It is July 6th in the year 2022. This is Anthony Stewart. And like always, we are questioning everything they've ever said and looking for answers in this thing we call life. And today might be an important one. This is something that I've been sort of noticing over the last few weeks, social media over the last few months. And it is a little bit controversial, maybe, but what can we do to take a little bit more control of our lives and take some power back? And this one is an important one, and we're going to be talking about the immune system. So I will be putting on my glasses because I've written some stuff down. And I gave a talk a little while ago, maybe February or something, about you need to hear this. And this is getting into it a little bit more deeper, as far as immune system and how it works and what you can do to maybe mitigate some risk and maybe improve your health along the way. So first and foremost, I want to talk about how I got here, and I will implore you, I will ask you to finish this video because there might be some gems hidden in here that will help you in your own life and your journey. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I have a story, and my story I'm trying to share is that I started taking health into my own hands, quite possibly out of fear, because when this whole pandemic thing hit, I was not comfortable being terrified. And as I was sort of progressing my health physically and through nutrition, I also wanted to know what was going on. And I wasn't satisfied with just hearsay and what they're telling me. So it sparked a curiosity and a quest to understand my immune system. And we got to start with how I did it. I started taking a couple courses. I looked into what immunity was, what your immune system is, and looking at the different aspects of immunity. We have an innate immune system, which is the one that is handed down to us, and what's inside us, first line of defense, so to speak, and an adaptive immune system that learns. So first and foremost, I want to specify that this doesn't matter whatever way you've decided to handle it this far. These are things that will hopefully give you a little bit more power into making decisions and strengthening and maybe even bulletproofing your own immune system. So it doesn't matter what you've done up to this point. This is what my observations are, and a couple little things that are science. And we might get a little bit complicated, but I urge you to stick around and hear me out. So first and foremost, when I started, I took a few immune courses online, learned basic, immune system 101, what everything was, what white blood cells are, the T cells, B cells, all that stuff. And what that did, to be honest with you, is it got me to a place where I could understand what a cytokine is. And when all this talk in the media about cytokine storm, it's scary because, you think that this could happen to me, and long and short, like Cole's nose version, cytokine storm is your body's panic and reacting to something that's not right. And if you can stop that from happening, which is basically your body trying to fix itself really quickly, and it causes an inflammatory response, and it's all bad things happen. Now, cytokines are natural, and there's inflammatory ones, and there's a lot of them. So it gets confusing about what interleukin 6 does, and interleukin 1, and interleukin 10, and brain-derived neurotropic factor, and tumor necrosis factor alpha. The point is trying to strengthen your immune system to not panic. That is the idea. Now, when we got into this whole mess, I wanted to know what a virus did and how it works. And there's a few things. I read this book right here. It's called The Immunity Fix. and it's by Dr. James DiNicolantonio and Sim Land, who's a biohacker. James DiNicolantonio is a pharmacy doctor who has extensively studied nutrition and the effects of it. And just to point out, the scientific reference, the references for this book in the scientific literature published is that thick. So you can see how the book is. Almost a third of the book is scientific references and literature. So it deals with a lot of biology. It deals about, a lot of things you can do to strengthen your immune system, what your immune system is, how nutrition affects your immune system, what you can do to prevent it and actually bulletproof your immune system. And what it basically comes down to is the ability to fight off infection, whether that's bacteria, autoimmune, or viral. And then I kind of went deeper into this and got into some notes. And what I'm observing now is the fact that we're all worried about variants. We're all worried about what's going to happen next. What we can see all out there is, and this is quoting Ivor Cummins, it's a seasonal trigger, and there's going to be spikes, peaks and valleys, in a natural progression. Now, what we're going to talk about today is how to fight the possibility of getting infected. Like this is just immune system kind of 101 that may help you, and you're going to notice some things, and I might get a little bit rambly, but this is what sort of comes down to. Now, a virus, when it gets exposed, when you're exposed to a virus, there's 6 things that happen. And we're not going to go into detail. We're just going to sum up the 6 things. What it does is it attaches. Then it invades. Then there's an uncoating of the virus. The virus hijacks cells. Then it assembles together and releases what your body will come to the the virulence. Right? So what you can do to stop or prevent certain aspects of this progression will depend on how strong your immune system is and the immune response you send the virus. So there's a few things we can do, and these are just like guidelines. You want to have less sugar. There's a whole other topic there about why, and we're going to get into that. And there's three aspects of trying to boost your immune system naturally: exercise, sleep, and then the sugar factor, which can be summed up into nutrition and whole food. Sugar, and I'm going to explain a little bit why sugar is damaging and why it could be the reason why you're having some troubles. So less sugar. You want to be sufficient, if not optimal, vitamin D. Now there's a whole bunch of, that's a whole other talk. And now I've even seen in the media that they're starting to toxicity of vitamin D. And I will say, from what I found, acutely dosing vitamin D from a deficient state has been shown, from what I've read, and like I said, it's my opinion, from what I've read, to not be problematic. Now, a super high dose of vitamin C, and we're talking 100,000 IUs, 60,000 IUs. A little vitamin D3 pill is 1,000 IUs. And I think you get like 4,000 IUs from an hour of sunshine. So when you look at it all in context, what you want to be is vitamin D sufficient, bordering optimal. Is there an upper limit? Probably, and it's probably to do with ethnicity, culture, your background, your color of your skin. These are factors that will probably change. So there's no RDA for everybody. This is very depending on your metabolic state, depending on how well your immune system is, will probably greatly vary the vitamin D. Now, what I do when there's no sunshine, specifically in the wintertime, I'm taking minimum about 4,000 IUs of vitamin D3 again. Now, there's arguments out there to say that you might not need to be taking it. The only way to do it is to get a serum vitamin D test, and you want to be above 20, above 30, bordering 50, 60 from what I've heard. So how we test that, you got to ask your doctor and get a vitamin D screen. And it's serum level of vitamin D. That's the form that is now working. All right, and we know vitamin D is not a vitamin, it is a prohormone. So it synthesizes differently, and the sun greatly affects it. So the more sunlight you synthesize into vitamin D, arguably the better. So all these UVB and UVA blockers might not be letting you get sufficient vitamin D. Now, I will say, don't burn. So you want to get sun exposure to maximize your potential without burning and damaging your skin. That's obvious. But you do need sunlight. And it's obviously very correlated with the season, where you build up your sunlight and your vitamin D stores through the summer that should get you through the winter. Now, we can get vitamin D in food, in the skin of animals, egg yolks, mushrooms. Is it optimal? That's an argument. So I'm just throwing that out there. Keep your zinc up. Get your zinc high. Now, there's a whole shit ton of food with zinc in it. Shellfish, high in zinc. Meat is high in zinc. There's some vegetables that are high in zinc. You just got to watch the anti-nutrient balance. So if you supplement zinc, be mindful that minerals work in synergy, and you can't just overdose on one without balancing out the others. And that's another talk. Vitamin C is another another very it's a hard topic to talk about, because from what I've learned about vitamin C is, and this is coming from Dr. James Nicol Antonio, and then other sources that state sort of why. You can't just megadose vitamin C when you start feeling symptoms of illness, because your body, for some reason, it doesn't react the same way. What you want to do is keep your vitamin C stores at a baseline, and as you get symptoms, up the dosage. Now, I'm not going to start quoting numbers. I don't know what it is for everybody. Myself, my vitamin C level is probably different than you. But what I will say this, vitamin C and sugar compete for absorption. So when you're drinking orange juice, and that sugar's there with no fiber, and you're drinking your orange juice for your vitamin C, it's something to think about. Now, what is the optimal range? You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. I don't know. Everybody's probably a little different, but vitamin C is something that you want to, specifically if you have any respiratory distress. It's an antioxidant. Yes, it will boost an immune. I supplement with vitamin C. It's a camu fruit, and I have my reasons, and I'm not saying everybody has to do that, but just be mindful of where you're getting your vitamin C from. If it's from orange juice, you might have to rethink that, because the sugar counteracts vitamin C. So even though you're taking a shit ton of vitamin C, and there's a whole bunch of stuff with vitamin C too, because it is a complex, it's not just ascorbic acid. So if you're taking vitamin C pills, ascorbic acid, might not be getting the full benefits of the vitamin C. Obviously, stress matters. Lowering stress will help a virus. It'll mitigate the viral load, so to speak. I mean, and this is proven in science. And you want to stay hot. So you want to support your immune system, and you want to start doing it now, right? Don't wait till September. Start doing these things now to keep in mind. And then if you get infected, you want to let your body fight the infection. And your body is a magical thing, and we have an immune response. You just want to keep that immune response calm. Now we're going to talk about the three things: exercise, sleep, and how sugar will affect your immune system. Okay, so we'll talk about sugar last, because that's the elephant in the room that everybody hates to love and loves to hate. But here it is. For exercise, why? And exercise is very subjective, but just getting out and going for a walk, doing some yoga, doing some active breathing, or even high intensity exercise, whatever it is, exercise. Okay, so we're speaking on a broad spectrum here. It heightens your immune surveillance, which means your immune system will be active. Why? It increases lymph circulation. Now you have a lymphatic system, and doesn't have a heart, so it doesn't pump things around. So you have to move for it to be engaged, which makes sense, right? It delays effects of aging as far as your immune system goes, because it starts the process. It gets you moving. I don't have to explain to you about how good it is to get your heart pumping, to get your blood flowing, but it also comes down to lymphatic flow too. You need to be moving, and that's for everybody. So that's a blanket statement. And then obviously, exercise will enhance your immune defense and your response. and it has to do with stress and hormesis, and those are technical. So just get out and move. Better in the sun. Those are what we're taking away from that. Now sleep. Sleep deprivation. This is just the Cole's Notes version. It lowers growth hormone. Sleep deprivation raises cortisol, which is that stress, fight or flight hormone. It causes a whole bunch of bad things. It increases adrenaline. So your response and your parasympathetic nervous system and your sympathetic nervous system that work sort of in tandem. One can be high, one can be. They quite often aren't together. Rest and digest, and fight or flight. So you want to keep. You want to get good sleep, and it also helps with your circadian rhythm, which has a whole bunch of good things. So if you have to do anything, try and figure out how you can sleep better. And there's a whole bunch. You can read Sean Stevenson's book, Sleep Smarter. There's a bunch of sleep things all over the internet, and they're all valid. Like, sleep is so underrated, and especially when you're dealing with an immune system problem. Myself, when I was run down, that's when I got sick. The only time in 3 years I got sick was when I was really, really run down, overtired, overexerted, and that's when it's arguable to say what maybe I wouldn't have even got sick if I was in proper, rest and, energy. So what sleep deprivation also does is it lowers your T cells activation, lowers your T cell activation, and can boost up your cytokine response. So this is all working together in your immune system. So your T cell response is important. And this could be the difference between really sick and just brushing it off. It also lowers your killer T cells at the time of when they're supposed to be attacking. So that's your sleep. Now it also decreases the speed of your white blood cells fighting infection, which is part of your innate immune system. So it calls these white blood cells, which are like macrophages and neutrophils and natural killer cells, to go to the infection and start doing the work. And it also, bad sleep patterns can affect the memory of your immune function. So antibody production and how your immune system is coordinating together. Bad sleep will affect that way. So that's exercise, that's sleep, and now we're going to talk about how sugar affects your immune system. And this is important because we'll tie it in together, and we're going to talk a little bit about metabolic syndrome. And I'm sorry this is so long-winded today, guys, but this could change. If you focus on this stuff now for the next season, could be the difference in how your body reacts to this problem we're having right now. And we don't know what's coming next. So I urge you to at least get some groundwork done and maybe make a few changes. And I want you to question me. You do your own research and dig deep into this, because you'll find that you can do things that will obviously give you a better chance and probably make your life a little bit better, healthier, and all that stuff. So sugar. Number one, it inhibited chemotaxis, which means movement of white blood cells to infections. So eating a lot of sugar disrupts your immune system communication. It also impairs phagocytosis, which is a scientific term for how your macrophages and your neutrophils respond to something wrong. And it gives you less weapons to use against a viral infection. Now, high sugar can cause acidosis, which is obviously higher levels of acid in your blood. You can look at heartburn, GERD, acid reflux. If you cut out sugar, that stuff probably will go away. But we're fighting it with antacids and stuff, and causing a whole bunch of stuff wrong with the gut. There's some questions there. So it also slows your white blood cell count moving through your tissues, which is another indication that the immune system communicates with itself, and it signals these things, and sugar will impede that. Your blood flow is diminished, less oxygen to your blood cells. It increases your anaerobic bacteria and fungus, so that ties into your gut microbiome. So the more sugar you're eating, you're feeding arguably the bad microbes in your gut. Now, if you have a leaky gut or some dysbiosis, that just causes a whole bunch of cascading effects down. So you have to back it up, look at your gut. If you've got, and it's possible quite often if you're eating a Western standard diet, specifically high in processed foods, you have to think about your gut health because a lot of good things happen down there, but a lot of bad things can happen too. Now, sugar, less innate immunity, and it weakens skin barriers. And if it can weaken skin barriers, your mucosal layer is arguably your skin, your mucosal layer through your sinuses, your mouth, all through your body. There's mucus. That is a protection system that traps things and it gives you a better chance to fight it, which is like vitamin A. You want to be high in vitamin A because that supports the mucus lining. Now, before we get into the metabolic syndrome side of things, this is what I want everybody to know or realize, that there's fear factoring out there, fear mongering, and there's some statistics that came out. I'm not sure if they're current, but this was my notes that I wrote probably well over a year ago. And 99.2% of all deaths from the virus had to do with metabolic syndrome, which we'll get into in a second, immunocompromised, which means 90% of those immunocompromised had hypertension, essential hypertension, which is high blood pressure, and a fallback compensatory state would be hyperinsulinemia, which we'll talk about in a second. So just hearing that, what can you do about it? Exercise, sleep, try and cut out that sugar, guys, because it builds up. Now we're going to talk about what metabolic syndrome is. Metabolic syndrome is 3 of these 5 criteria. 3 of these 5 criteria. Quite often not diagnosed because for some reason people don't put this together. And they are increased waist circumference, overweight or obese, elevated blood pressure, hypertension, low HDL cholesterol. I will repeat, low HDL cholesterol. Nothing to do with LDL. High triglycerides, which is the fat in your blood, and a high blood sugar, fasting glucose or an HbA1c that's high. Now, taking one of these things out of the 5, you might not be there, but if you tick 3 of those 5, you have metabolic syndrome, and there's cause for concern. And now we know metabolic syndrome affects your immune system. So you're going to have to dig into that and figure out a way. And I will tell you this, no drug, I repeat, no drug is going to fix that. It might treat the symptoms, but it will not fix metabolic syndrome. You have to change it with diet and lifestyle. Exercise, sleep, nutrition. For real. Now, hyperinsulinemia, which means fasting insulin in your blood, heightened levels of it, is a reflection of chronic consumption of sugar and carbohydrates to the point where your body is producing too much insulin and the insulin's not working, so it's producing more and more. And the end game is type 2 diabetes, or even beta cell burnout, which would lead to type 1 diabetes. But this is also not tested. Fasting insulin is not tested. And insulin resistance is a real thing. And if you can just take these things into consideration and build yourself up over the next 3 months to hopefully get a little stronger so that this nasty bug that comes knocking, you're in a better state. Eat whole food. Start doing it now. Processed food has no nutrition. And if it does have nutrition, that they fortify it. It's not in the matrix. There's so many things to talk about there. Processed food is the enemy. It's not doing any good for your system. It's destroying your liver, and it's polluting your gut, or weakening your gut, or feeding your gut the bad stuff that you don't want. Sleep, important. Start thinking about it. That's all. Exercise. Move more, right? Walk. Yoga. If you're into it, lift heavy shit. If you're into it, move really fast. They're good things. But exercise. And sugar is a problem with immune system function. So all the people on the fence about how they want to change their diets, remember, this is cumulative, and your body can only handle so much sugar before it becomes toxic. And fructose, there is no human function that is required for fructose. It goes to fat, and it causes metabolic dysfunction, insulin resistance. Okay? Sugar, sucrose, is 1 part glucose, which your body can deal with, and 1 part fructose that causes a whole bunch of problems. That's why we're having diseases of adulthood in kids now. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, obesity, bad autoimmune problems, fatty liver, and you can reverse that fast. Stop eating the sugar. And if you need some help, if you want to know more about this, if I can help you break down some nutritional sides or do anything to sort of help you out, please leave a comment below or email me. And this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And you can start doing things today for the next season that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how these things are working, what's going to be mutating, how the variants are going to become. So I urge you, if you're scared, learn how to fight back, at least within yourself, and try and mitigate the fear, the damage. And please, guys, if this will help somebody, if we can help you and get inspired, or you want to share it with someone, by all means, and please like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all you that are subscribing, and I hope this helps. I'm sorry this is a long one, but this one's very important, and you need to start thinking about this stuff, okay? Take care. Stay strong.